Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for what is today a very special Kirby seminar, where we have a number of guest speakers from the United States. But I'll kick off. My name is Philip Keane. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we gathered today and pay my respects to elders past and present. Today, I'm presenting from the land of the Bedjigal people, and I extend my respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be joining us in the audience today. Just some housekeeping to start off with. We have three presenters and also a guest from the CDC who's working with our presenters who will be available at the end to answer questions. I'm going to read everyone's bios at the beginning, and then we will go into presentations first by Ruth, and then Jen, and then Travis, and we'll have questions at the end. So if people want to ask questions, please write them into the Q&A box as we go. And because we do have Captain McGowan from the CDC, if you have questions for the CDC as the funding body and someone working with our presenters, then bear that in mind. So today, our presenters are going to be talking about a really amazing program that I think started 4 months ago in the United States. It's a program to distribute HIV self-tests by mail with contact initially online. We're going to see some amazing results. I think that this is, to my knowledge, certainly the biggest HIV self-testing program in any developed country in the world. And our presenters are very kindly presenting data on the program for the first time to us today in this seminar. So that's very exciting. So first of all, Ruth Dana, who is an Associate Director of Programs at the Department of Epidemiology at the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University, will be presenting. And they are a program director for the nationwide mailed HIV self-testing program, Together TakeMeHome, and have previously worked on research studies focusing on HIV self-testing, prevention, and technological health tools. Ruth will be followed by Jen Hecht, who is the co-founder and director of Building Healthy Online Communities. Jen has worked in sexual health and substance use for over 20 years. She's the co-founder and director of Building Healthy Online Communities, which partners with public health and dating apps to progress HIV and STI prevention. She's the executive director at Springboard Health Lab, which fosters bold ideas in public health to advance health equity. Following Jen, Professor Travis Sanchez will be presenting. Travis is a professor in the Department of Epidemiology at the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University. He's also editor-in-chief of the JMIR Public Health and Surveillance Journal. And Professor Sanchez currently leads multiple technology-enhanced HIV epidemiologic studies and prevention interventions, including the one that we're hearing about today, the nationwide mailed HIV self-testing program, Together TakeMeHome. And not presenting but available for questions is Captain Robin McGowan from the CDC. And Captain McGowan is an epidemiologist with the HIV research branch in the Division of HIV Prevention at CDC. Since joining the CDC in 1989, he's collaborated on numerous HIV testing activities, including an evaluation of HIV counselling and testing among injecting drug users, monitoring and evaluating the HIV testing program in Botswana, and investigating HIV transmission among prisoners in Georgia. Recently, he's collaborated with our colleague, our other presenters today from Emory, on 2 internet-based studies on rapid HIV self-testing among men who have sex with men in the United States. Robin is the project officer for this program that supports the mass mailing of HIV self-tests to persons disproportionately affected by HIV in the United States. So thanks very much, and over to you, Ruth.
Hello, thank you so much for having us today. Let me share the slides. I'm excited to share more information about Together TakeMeHome, which is, as you said, the HIV self-test distribution program. I wanted to start off with some background information about HIV in the United States initiatives to end the US HIV epidemic, and how HIV self-testing became a part of that strategy. So much like Australia, HIV in the United States disproportionately affects certain key populations, including gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men, Black or African American people, Hispanic or Latino people, transgender people, and particularly transgender women, people who inject drugs. And this is also defined by certain geographic regions, which are most impacted by HIV. And I want to acknowledge that there are, of course, people who are at the intersections of multiple of these groups as well. Regarding efforts to combat the HIV epidemic in the United States, in 2019, a new initiative was started called Ending the HIV Epidemic, or EHE. EHE is funded across several United States government agencies within the US Department of Health and Human Services, which includes the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. This plan aims to end the HIV epidemic in the US by reducing new HIV infections by 75% by 2025 and 90% by 2030. Ending the HIV epidemic has 4 main goals, including diagnosing people with HIV as early as possible, treating people rapidly and effectively, preventing new HIV transmissions, and responding to outbreaks. Emory University and CDC previously collaborated on 2 research studies called eStamp and iStamp, which Captain McGowan was involved with. And these demonstrated that providing HIV self-tests was associated with increased testing and awareness of HIV status. These studies provided the evidence that HIV self-testing can support the ending the HIV epidemic goal of diagnosing people as early as possible. Additionally, providing tests to MSM, or men who have sex with men, who are recruited via dating apps and social media, can increase awareness of HIV status, including among those who did not use existing testing services previously. Another thing to note is that providing more than one HIV self-test at a time for people to give to their friends, partners, and other social network associates can help to increase testing and awareness of status among those in the broader networks of the people who actually ordered the test themselves. In 2019, a demonstration project for Together TakeMeHome was launched and distributed 100,000 HIV self-tests in just 8 months. The lessons learned from this program informed the current Together TakeMeHome national program and continue to inform CDC's future self-testing strategies. We now know that public funding of HIV self-testing can engage key populations who had never previously tested and might also increase HIV testing frequency. This program also highlighted the changing healthcare needs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. HIV self-testing is a proven intervention that represents a paradigm shift in testing practices and is a key strategy to support the goals of the Ending the HIV Epidemic in the United States initiative. This type of program model overcame the need to establish separate contractual agreements for each jurisdiction, allowing for a nationwide expansion. And the current Together TakeMeHome program, which we're here to talk about today, began in 2022 and launched in March 2023, and has already distributed over 180,000 HIV self-tests in less than 5 months. I will now hand over to Jen Hecht from Building Healthy Online Communities, who will share the background about the precursor to Together TakeMeHome and then describe the current national program.
Great, thank you so much, Ruth. So as was noted in the introduction, I lead a program called Building Healthy Online Communities. We are a consortium of public health organizations that work in partnership with dating apps. And our goal is to improve sexual health outcomes among dating app users. We regularly gather input from dating app users. And we completed some research with Emory University, in which we identified that there were a high proportion of MSM. You can see here 22% of MSM who were using dating apps who'd never tested for HIV. And we also asked about their interest in being able to order an HIV home test, and there was a very strong level of interest. So in response, we created an ordering platform called TakeMeHome, and we supported individual health departments to pay for kits so that the end user could order them for free. We were especially focused on reaching people who weren't otherwise accessing HIV testing. And we launched this program in March of 2020. And since that time have expanded from 4 health departments to about 30 and have sent out about 30,000 kits. So one of the things that we were most excited about from this program is that amongst all the participants, we've consistently seen that about a third report that their testing with TakeMeHome was their first test ever. And in terms of our partnerships with dating apps, we can see that they're driving a lot of the traffic. We generally see about 50% of the traffic to our site is coming from our partnerships with dating apps. Those dating apps have included buttons, embedded links, in-kind messages. And as noted with our health department model, we're able to tailor the eligibility criteria and promotions to local health department needs. We wanted the site to be scalable, so we created a system in which each individual health department or organization could identify their own eligibility criteria by zip code, age, and time since last test. So our model works as follows. The public health departments purchase the kits. We then set up an account on our ordering platform with their specific eligibility criteria. Then our dating app partners promote to their users so that folks can order for free. The kit is then shipped by our fulfillment partner. And we make sure that participants have all the referral information they need for what to do if they have questions or if they have a positive test. Our app was built first and foremost to be user-friendly and mobile first. It's not an app, excuse me, if I said our app, our website, it's not an app since many people are not willing to download an app that they're just going to use a few times a year. It takes less than a minute to order a test with just a few eligibility questions and then a screen to enter address and contact information. Our program has helped address 3 major barriers to uptake for the only FDA-approved self-test in the US. Many people were not even aware that an HIV self-test existed, let alone that it had been out for almost a decade. So our model brought awareness of this technology and made it free to the end user, while the retail price is about $45. We also created one central platform to order it and brought it right to the places that people were that we're trying to reach were already at, which is the dating apps. And then in 2021, we also expanded our Take Me Home program to offer self-collection for full lab-based STI testing, which also requires account creation and a few additional questions. And in this case, health departments provide local medical oversight and follow-up. So now I'm going to transition to talk more about the current Together Take Me Home program. As Ruth noted, in 2021, we did pilot a nationally scaled version of the Take Me Home program funded by CDC with Emory and other partners. And through that project, we distributed 100,000 kits in 8 months and demonstrated that there was significant national demand. And then in late 2022, we applied with Emory in the lead for CDC funding for a 5-year scale up, and that program is called Together Take Me Home. So for short, TTMH, the TTMH program is a cooperative agreement between CDC and Emory with other key partners noted here. The goal is to deliver 1 million tests over 5 years with a focus on 3 priority populations: MSM, focusing on Black and Latino MSM, trans folks, focusing on trans women, and Black cisgender women. So here you can see a little bit more of a breakdown of each of the role of each of our partners. So Emory is the project lead and manages the data evaluation and logistics. And in this case, that means the inventory and shipping. Emory also provides oversight to all program partners. CDC is responsible for funding, program oversight, and promotion. BHOC leads website design and content, translation, customer service, and user feedback. Signal leads technology development. NASDAD, which is a health department membership organization, leads stakeholder engagement. And OraSure is responsible for supplying the OraQuick home test kits. So as noted just a moment ago, CDC leads the promotion, and that includes the following. So they've connected this program to their existing Let's Stop HIV Together campaign. And they work with their partners on development of ads and ad campaigns, purchase ads on digital platforms, provide assets to community partners, and work with social media influencers. In addition, BHOC has been able to leverage our existing relationships with dating apps to support promotion with in-app buttons, embedded links, and in-kind messages through several dating apps. Our user journey is similar to the Take Me Home model. So participants learn about the site from our promotional efforts. Once they land on our homepage, they can click the Order Now button, or they can use the menu to learn more about the program. Participants need only enter their zip code and age in order to order a kit. And once they've entered their address and contact information and agree to our consent language, we then ask a few additional optional questions after their order to learn more about them. And then if participants do opt into additional communications, they get a 10-day and 60-day survey. The Together Take Me Home website is available in both English and Spanish. Participants can order up to 2 kits every 90 days. And all people age 17 and older, which is that age is based on the FDA approval, living in the US are eligible. So now that you know the basics of how the program works, I'm going to turn it over to Travis to share some information about the program outcomes to date.
So we're going to show you the interim outcomes from the Together Take Me Home program. First, we're just going to talk about the ordering success that we saw. So we launched the program on March 15th. This graph shows you the orders per day from the start of the program to just past a week ago. And as you can see, we had a very large surge at the beginning of the program due to the success that we had with adding an order button to the Grindr website and the profile page. And then after that, you can see that we've been running fairly steadily for the past several months, and most recently around 600 orders coming in every day. Because people can opt in to either getting 1 or 2 kits, that equates to around 1,100 HIV tests ordered every day. And in the past 4.5 months, we've distributed more than 180,000 HIV self-tests. I think we're actually probably right at the 200,000 tests distributed as of today. And this is to more than 100,000 people. We also have some logistical aspects. Folks often ask, like, how quickly can you get kits out to people using the systems that we have? So we're able to actually use automated logistics processing, and we have accomplished being able to ship 99% of our kits within 24 hours of the order being submitted. And 95% of those have been delivered to folks in less than 5 days. With 1/3 of them actually receiving it in kind of Amazon Prime delivery times of 1 to 2 days. We also have some successes in reach for the program. We've distributed within the first week and a half test kits to every state in the US and Puerto Rico, DC. We now have distributed thousands of kits across all those locations. Half of the orders are from the focus jurisdictions for the Ending the HIV Epidemic strategy, including 10% of the kits that have gone to mainly rural EHE areas. EHE has both city and rural areas, and about 10% are going to rural areas. For those 100,000 orders, about half of them are coming from cisgender, gay, bisexual, or other MSM. 4,000 orders were from Black cisgender women, and more than 7,000 orders have been from transgender and gender diverse populations. 1/4 of the people who are ordering kits have never previously tested for HIV, and just over another 1/4 hadn't been tested in the past year. We also have a high level of engagement with other additional opt-in activities. So half of participants of the program have opted in for other follow-up activities, including things like reminders for being able to order additional tests at 90 days. We just launched that today, so I don't have any outcomes of those to share with you quite yet. We also have a customer service system, and since the beginning of the program, we've had 1,100 folks engage with our customer service system. Most of those are coming through emails and other ways of contacting us. The majority of them tend to be related to the kit logistics, shipping, when is it coming, I need help processing my order. But we have actually multiple other inquiries, things about navigation for prep services, other types of care connections, other things that we're going to be implementing fairly soon related to improving our prep linkages. The other thing that we wanted to share with you is quotes that we've received from program participants, either spontaneously submitting in our order system and free comment section, or also being provided through some qualitative interviewing we've recently conducted. So here's one quote that we like, and this is the person talking about how this has filled the need that they haven't been able to meet in their own area. So just give you a moment to read that one. There are also another set of quotes here around how this is essentially solving other aspects of people's needs to receive HIV testing services and do it in a way that's confidential and safe for them. And then finally, another set of quotes that really speaks to how easy this process has been for people to engage with. So in addition to those successes, we've also had some lessons learned as we're implementing such a large-scale program. One is that demand had dramatically been a lot higher than what we were anticipating based off of our demonstration project activities. And so we just had to have some flexible marketing plans to be able to address the demands that we were seeing while we waited on additional funding to arrive and for us to be able to resupply with our kits. And so we had an initial $8.2 million of federal investment, which was for distributing 200,000 kits. And we just received another $4 million of federal funding for another 150,000 kits just for this year. We also, the process that allowed us to get those kits out so quickly also produced these other technical hurdles around logistics processing because of the automation from the time the order went until the logistics processing. Any little hitch in that system, could end up producing an outage where orders weren't going out. And so we just had to have additional intelligence about whether outages were possible and making sure that we had processes in place for suspending ordering, fulfillment, or restarting it. Also, the 55% of folks that were agreeing for follow-up is not as high as we would like it to be. And so we just learned other ways of potentially improving the opt-in to that follow-up process. We also, just like every other internet business has to deal with fraud issues. The internet's not such a great place to be running things. And so you have to have additional fraud protections put into place, but those additional fraud protections also come with these balancing issues related to customer experience and customer service. And so just finding that right balance also between those two aspects was one of the things that we learned very early in the program. Also, the one other main point here is that those customer service contacts had very few people that were calling us to ask us about how to use the kits themselves. So most people were actually successfully able to order and use the kits without any assistance. I did want to acknowledge that TTMH has a formal program evaluation framework. So what I've shared with you is just the early snippets of the information from our orders, which we get from the vast majority of our orders, including these basic pieces of information. But we have more detailed follow-up evaluation surveys that go out 10 and 60 days after the participants have ordered their kits. And those are only sent to people who opt in for those additional activities. And so there'll be limited respondents for those additional evaluation outcomes. And you can see the things that we'll be collecting there. We also have begun to do qualitative interviews with program participants to try to delve a little bit more into issues about their experience with the website and also the HIV self-tests. And then finally, for the quantitative evaluation pieces from the program, we also intend in limited states to do HIV surveillance case matching, in which we work with the states and get aggregate information back on which of our program participants may be showing up in the state as being newly diagnosed with HIV infection. CDC also has a fairly extensive market research evaluation plan to examine which ads are most effective at driving HIV self-test orders at TTMH. Looking ahead for the program, currently for the first year, we're going to be now distributing 350,000 HIV self-tests this year. Moving forward, year 2 and beyond for the program, CDC has committed additional funding to get us to at least 320,000 HIV self-tests annually. Also, some of those customer service interactions are things that we are interested in following up to find out whether any of the referrals that we had made resulted in successful linkages to care or to PrEP services. We also want to expand our interactions with community-based organizations to get a better understanding about how we could reach other populations that may have challenges with ordering through this type of systems that TTMH is using. We also are implementing a live internal monitoring dashboard, so that way all the various partners that are part of the project can see these kind of live order outcome pieces of information and can help with planning for marketing efforts, for instance. And we're beginning our outcomes dissemination. You got the very early taste of what we'll be presenting. And as we go over the next 6 months, you'll start hearing more and more about our program and the outcomes from it. And then we also have, as part of the longer term strategy, Emory and BHOC have a longer term strategy around sustainability planning for these larger scale HIV self-testing programs. All right, and then finally, if you want to connect with us later, here's just our contact information. You can reach any of us, at the email addresses here. There's also contact information on the Together TakeMeHome website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth, Travis, and Jen, for those presentations. That's really fascinating. We've actually finished a little earlier than I thought. I thought we were at risk of running over time, but we've gone under time. But that's great because we have time for questions. I have a couple of my own. We have just 2 questions from people online. So I have many questions, but I might try to limit myself initially to 2. Travis, you mentioned that you're trying to triangulate data from the program with new HIV notifications or diagnoses in clinics. I just wondered if you or Robin could say something about how that process works. So in Australia, HIV is a notifiable disease, and the surveillance people here recently changed the notification forms so that if someone is presenting for a confirmatory test after a reactive self-test, a positive self-test, then that is noted in the notification. But is there a similar system there?
Yes, we do collect similar information on our HIV case surveillance forms or reporting forms for notifiable disease surveillance. But we're not relying on that. We're actually relying on a direct match. So we provide the names, addresses, any other details that we have on participants, like date of birth. So we provide those identifiers to the state health departments. The state health departments then match that data against their new HIV diagnoses. We also give them time frames for when they engage with our program, so that way they can be sure that there wasn't a diagnosis that happened prior to engagement in our program. And then they report back like out of that, 150, 3, 5, 600 people, we found 10 of them, 8 of them, 4 of them, right? So they don't tell us who they were, they just tell us the total number, to still be able to preserve confidentiality.
Great. Thanks, Travis. I do have some other questions, but we're starting to get a number of questions from our guests online, so I might go to those. First of all, Jason Ong, thanks for this question, Jason. Says, fantastic program, thanks for sharing. Could you please share on the HIV positivity rates for people using self-testing kits, and are there plans to conduct an economic evaluation using this approach?
Yes, so we're still evaluating. So where we get that information in these types of programs is through the evaluation surveys that are submitted at 10 and 60 days, where they report back the results of tests that they've used. And so we're still collecting that information in TTMH to be able to report that out. In the past, with other similar HIV self-testing research, probably maybe have Ruth speak to what that looked like in the prior research. But it is actually consistent with what we see with other types of HIV testing outreach, and like directly in communities. And then your other question, economic evaluation. So we are going to be doing an economic evaluation of the cost effectiveness of this program, and also making comparisons to other routinely funded HIV testing programs as part of the effectiveness evaluation. Ruth, do you have any information on the positivity from prior research projects?
I feel like Robin can probably answer this better than I can,
Okay.
but I could I could pull up his poster presentation.
Okay, yeah. From the 2 previous research studies that we did, it was somewhere around 2%, I think, overall in the first project. The second project, the ISTAM project, which Ruth and I were more engaged in together, we're finding about 9% of the people reporting a positive test result. And everybody who enrolled into the study indicated that they had either never been tested or never had a positive test result. So take it on face value, but the eligibility requirements for the 2 studies were a little bit different, but still that's pretty high.
That's extraordinarily high. Thank you. And can I just check, with that other program you're referring to, what was the distribution method for that program?
Both of these 2 studies are web recruited randomized controlled trials where we recruited men from around the US. In the first one, it was a national study. The second one was only in 11 specific states.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Robin, Ruth, and Travis. I might go to a question from NAPWA. NAPWA, the National Association of People with HIV Australia, I understand, is soon going to be launching a project to distribute quite a number of HIV self-tests in Australia that are, I think, supported by Gilead. So I'm sure are keenly interested in how things are going with your program. So it's such a great program, and are asking 2 questions. How did the project grapple with the concept of potential self-harm if people get a reactive result? And second question is, how did you think about loss to follow up? So
You guys want me to start with this one?
Sure, thank you.
So my BHSC leads the customer service for this program. So one of the things that's really important, there's two things that I would point to. One is that on the package itself, on the OraQuick package, there's actually a 24/7 hotline. And so folks have the opportunity to call that if needed. We have not seen, since distributing about 200,000 kits, we have not seen an uptick in the number of calls to that line. We've been checking with the company, who's one of our partners. So I think that's important to note. We also we have our own customer service where folks can contact us via email or phone. And we have not had any concerns raised about harm or self-harm or worry around that. So just to let you know, kind of with the volume that we've had, that's sort of what we offer and what we've seen to date. And in terms of loss to follow-up, I'm not sure what that's referring to. Is it because there isn't the way that the program is set up? Sorry, please go ahead.
I guess in this context, it would be someone who may get a reactive result but does not seek confirmatory testing. But I don't think you would even know, unless someone reports that they have a reactive result in your follow-up survey, you may not otherwise know that they had a reactive result. But you are seeking that information.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So we do have the opportunity for folks to share that information through the follow-up survey, but not all folks will do that. And then, as Travis noted, there's sort of an anonymized way of getting a sense of how many new positives, but that's not around the follow-up to care. So the follow-up to care is around the referrals that we offer through our website, the customer service that we offer, and then also the 24/7 hotline that the ORAC Quick Kit has on its package.
Great. Thanks, Jen. And I think that's really reassuring. And I think it's consistent with a lot of the trial results on HIV self-testing, where really there's not a lot of data on self-harm as a result of getting reactive result, and really high proportions of people who do get reactive results do follow up and seek confirmatory testing. So I think although there are some people who worry out there, I think what we see when we look at the results is really good outcomes. It looks like you're trying to say something. Yeah.
I just want to add one other point, which is I know Sexual Health London runs a very, very large home testing program, and they do have some sort of more, I believe they have some questions specific to this. So if that's of concern, I would direct folks to that
Okay.
organization.
Great, thank you for that.
In both of the two prior research projects, both of those involved, they were cohorts, right, and involved additional engagements with people after they started using the kits, and we monitored for these other types of adverse outcomes, and we didn't have any of them. And in those projects, we also had a little bit more of an ability to follow up with folks around how they were potentially engaging with care if they reported reactive results, and we saw similar rates of linkage to care for what we see with other clinic-based testing programs. So the other perspective just to share here is that for HIV self-testing projects, we can't get too focused on making sure that we have every piece of data that happened, for the linkage that happens after, people use the tests, right? I mean, we're trying to achieve a public health goal of getting tests into hands of, a large proportion of people who either haven't tested before ever or aren't testing frequently enough, given their population. And so we purposely not put so much focus on these stringent, research-based follow-up, activities that often, need to document linkages to care and, initiations of antiretroviral therapy. Those are still incredibly critical outcomes for a program like this. But you can't necessarily not do the program just because you may not get great data for those types of outcomes.
Thank you, Travis. I think that's a really important point, and I think many of us working in research and funders are really interested to know more about the people who are accessing a program. But a colleague of mine who used to work here at the Kirby Institute, Mohammed Jamil, who's a technical officer on HIV self-testing at WHO, has said that data collection should not, be creating barriers to accessing HIV self-tests. So I think the approach you've taken is great. There are a number of questions. I might just go to one that I had myself because it kind of relates to what we were just talking about. And Jen, you mentioned so there are two separate programs, which I didn't really understand probably until today, but in the program, the Take Me Home program, I think it sounded like you do probably for the purpose of the health departments who are funding it, it sounded like you do try to get more information up front. If that is the case, I wondered whether you've compared what sort of drop-off rates you get from people when you are asking for that information up front compared to the Together TakeMeHome program, which is asking for minimal information up front.
Yeah, we kept ours as minimal as possible, but because we do have to consider the sort of budgets and the eligibility criteria. So we have 4 questions on the Take Me Home program before someone starts to put in their address. And on the Together Take Me Home, we only have 2. It is just zip code and age. So the additional questions that we ask are about the time since their last test and their sex at birth. Those are required questions.
And that's all, not about risk behavior or sexual partners.
Nope.
Okay. And is there any noticeable difference in drop-off between the 2?
I don't think so, although this is something that I think I'm interested in looking at anyhow for Take Me Home, as it's like exactly where we see drop-offs in our funnel. But I think our goal sort of when we started our program was to have as few questions at the beginning as possible. And we've seen a very high number of people going through to an order conversion. So I think, we have done our best on both programs to make it as smooth and streamlined as possible in order to, as Travis was noting, in order to ensure that folks who otherwise might not take a test get the opportunity to order one.
Right, great. Thank you for that. There are a number of questions
and
about...
even for the optional questions that come after they complete their order, we see a very high proportion of people completing those questions as well. I think greater than 75%.
And I think that's really great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the data when you do publish that, because I think that's a bit higher than I would have expected. So some of the programs in Australia, we've mostly had HIV self-testing distribution via vending machines. I think one program at least online in Queensland, and they also tried to have optional data collection after people were sent the test, and I think there was fairly low uptake of that. So it's great to see that you're getting good uptake of that. So there are a number of questions about marketing, which I'll come to in a moment. There is one from my boss, which I better ask, but it's the one that we were emailing about yesterday, which is about the OraSure test. So Andrew Grulich asks, was the OraSure test distributed as a test for oral use only? That test, I understand, can be used with blood or oral fluid. And Andrew says that he believes the oral test has a longer window period compared to some blood-based finger prick home-based tests. Why did you decide to base the scheme with an oral test, and what sort of education is provided about the window period?
Yeah, so because this is a program activity and not research, we were required to use a test that's approved by the FDA for self-administration. And the oral fluid OraQuick test is the only FDA-approved HIV self-test in the United States. So that's all we had available for us. We hope there are others that will be coming to market, including some of the more sensitive finger stick tests. And so we're hopeful that we'll have additional options in the coming years for the program. We don't get into specific technical issues related to the window period, but what we do is in our FAQs, we have some information about directing people who think that they may have been more recently exposed to maybe a clinic-based test rather than ordering through our program.
Right. Thanks, Travis. I think what some programs have also done have talked about or warned about using the OraSure test as a test that 2 people might take together before having sex if they're having a lot of sex with other people. But I might go to the marketing, the advertising and marketing ones, because we've had a few about that. So Matthew Vaughan, who works at a leading CBO here, they do a lot of advertising, asks, after the initial spike in promotion, there was approximately 500 tests ordered today. I think you said 600, Travis. Did you have any ongoing promotion of the service other than what was promoted on Grindr? I had a question myself about that amazing initial spike was on Grindr. You mentioned a button on Grindr. Was that a time-limited promotion, or has the button been there throughout? But so maybe hang on to that, and or maybe
Well,
let's
I
go with
think
that.
these are all related.
Yeah.
These are all related.
Okay.
Why don't I take this one, and then if you guys want to jump in. So I think that spike was it's like a hockey stick and it's very dramatic. That spike is there were many things that led to that. I think for sure Grindr was the biggest proportion by far, but what happened was several different things on those first few days. So we had some messages that went out on Grindr and other dating apps. We had the button that was referred to and shown on that graph, as well as there was a Grindr blog post. There was a little bit of press that came off of that, and just kind of like launch day, right? Like this is the first thing it's first time many people are seeing this. So we saw many thousands of orders in those first several days. After that point, we saw the button did stay there and has actually then contributed to the vast majority of the traffic for a period of time. Part of the reason it's contributing to the vast majority is because we had so much traffic, we had to reduce the amount of other promotions we were doing, because we were concerned that we might actually run out of kits. As we've shared with you all, we were able to secure new funding, so that wasn't an issue, but there was a period of time where we actually did have to sort of pull back some of the other promotions. But we do have other promotions. The promotions are being led by CDC, but they also include, partners. So like local community-based partners, other dating apps that we're working with. There's many other partners that are part of promotion. In fact, my program, Take Me Home, all the areas that we're not active point to Together Take Me Home, so folks can get to that. That's driving some traffic. I know Ruth and Travis, Emory runs another website that also, offers, information about the program. So there's many other traffic sources, and I think it will be interesting to see over time, now that we have a secure inventory of kits, how it all shakes out once we have many different types of promotions going at the same time.
Great. Thank you very much, Jen.
Want to just add to that there's a extremely robust marketing plan that CDC is playing around this, and the Let's Stop HIV Together campaign has been a relatively long-standing HIV prevention campaign that's been run by CDC. And so all of those marketing materials are actually up on CDC's website. So you could go and see which ads, have been used before for past campaigns. There's toolkits there for other partners to pick them up and use them in their own materials, and can direct folks, to our location. So I think there's a robust marketing activity that we've now that we have the full set of kits to reach the 350,000. All of those things have been ramping up over the past few weeks, and so we'll probably in the next month or two we'll have much more detailed data about which types of ads are best at recruiting which types of folks, for orders, and can delve down into that level of detail.
Great. Thank you, Travis and Jen. We've got a few questions left and still 10 minutes. So I might just quickly try to summarize a couple. There are a couple about connection to care. So Louise, I think, and someone else asked what sort of additional information is provided to engage people who test positive into a confirmation pathway and care. I think that was, yeah, I might do a follow-up if I see the other one was related to that. Oh, the other one was about PrEP, whether you try to, Tyson asked whether you have ways to engage people about PrEP with this program.
Yeah, I can start, and then please other folks jump in. So again, in terms of connection to care, we are, sharing information out when folks order the kit. Again, the kit has the 24/7 hotline, and then we have information on our website with directories where folks can get additional information, both on the FAQ as well as the directories of resources. But first and foremost, we have our customer service team that folks can call, and then those folks are available to, answer questions and direct folks to care. So that's how it's set up. But it is, as I think Travis was noting, it is set up to direct folks to care, but not so much as a case management follow-up. We are exploring, adding on some additional follow-up over time, for folks that we do provide those referrals to. And we do the same with PrEP. So we, if folks ask questions about PrEP, or sometimes even if they, write questions about PrEP in the open-ended the open-ended comments at the end of the ordering process, we're able to sort of reach out to them to try to get them connected. But that's really sort of what the customer service team does.
Great. Thank you for that.
And I could
Yeah,
probably
yes,
add something to this that may also answer the PrEP question, I think that was posed, which is
Mhm.
that we do ask people at the time that they're placing an order, whether they've ever had an HIV diagnosis, or whether they're currently taking PrEP. And if they answer yes to either one of those, then we kind of gently let them know that, this test may not be for them, but they're welcome to go ahead and order the kits and give them to other people. So we do know like who's currently on PrEP. We don't limit the orders from them. Also, we may understand whether someone's been previously diagnosed with HIV. Again, don't limit orders to them, but collect that information in our order data.
And so can I just clarify, Travis, with what you collect, are you able to distinguish people currently on PrEP from those previously on PrEP?
The question is whether they're currently on PrEP.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. A couple more questions. Look, we had some of your colleagues from the United States give a presentation after the IAS conference recently in Brisbane, but back here in Sydney gave a presentation. And one thing they spoke about a lot was fraud. And in that case, they were giving small cash incentives to people, young people filling out a survey. But Ye asks, what are the current strategies being implemented to prevent fraudulent orders? And I guess I wanted also to ask you, what sort of fraud are you trying to prevent? Is it people trying to get a test so that they can resell it to others or something? But yeah, if you could talk about that and what strategies you're implementing to identify and prevent fraud.
This is definitely your question.
I'm happy to answer this. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's two different approaches. I can speak to the program approach, and then I think you would take a different approach for a research program. I mean, we've done a lot of strategies around limiting fraudulent orders. I think it is mostly a concern for resale. And some items that you would want to protect against would be like duplicate orders from the same IP address, the frequency with which orders are coming in. Obviously, if someone programs a bot, that's going to come in at a very quick pace. And I think that another piece that we do some protection around is like duplicate information about their contact information and addresses. So there's many different strategies, and you kind of have to come up with what the exact algorithm of combination of those items would be. I think for a research program, you can delve deeper than we would at this type of scale of program. So I know that in prior research studies, we've definitely done information about name, contact information, phone number, IP address, and even go so far as to compare, like we'll collect a date of birth on one survey and another survey and compare them and see if they're reporting the same date of birth and see if this seems like it is, legitimate, valid information that they're providing consistently, or if maybe there's some inconsistency. Is it a typo, or is it that they're providing a fake date of birth at each instance?
Okay.
So
Thank you, Ruth. There's a question from Rohit about why was online distribution the preferred option for distribution? Were any physical test kits distributed, were any physical test kit distribution models considered, such as vending machines? So perhaps you could talk to that in your experience, or Robin, perhaps if you have experience of funding other programs.
I'll say it from the funder's perspective, based on the previous work that we had done, we realized that the only way to get out lots of self-tests to a large population really was to do some type of mass distribution. It was based on the initial research study that we did. We realized that we could reach everyone around the country if we're targeting, through specific websites, and that's what we chose to do. So that's how we wrote up the contract for the very first demonstration project. And we realized that that was so successful, we wanted to do something on a larger scale for this one. So from the funding perspective, it was more, how do we get the most out as quick as possible to the people that we really want to advertise to? So while anybody can order a test, we're trying to target this to the key populations for the US that Ruth had mentioned early on.
Great. Thank you, Robin.
There's some efficiencies gained. I'm sorry. I was going to add that, and there's for a project of the scale, right? There's efficiencies gained by centralizing, logistical resources, technical resources, managing kind of a physical infrastructure for vending machines at this scale, would dramatically increase the cost and complexity of the program. To distribute 200,000 to 300,000, HIV self-tests in a 6-month period, I think would be a massive infrastructure investment.
Right. Thank you, Travis. Just a couple more. So Dash asks whether you could provide more detail on the health promotional marketing activities that you delivered to ensure information on the program reached the harder to reach populations such as Black and Hispanic populations. There was another question from NAPWA about which advertisements were most successful. So those may be related, but yeah, I think I'm also interested in this side, like what you did beyond just the strategy that you talked about to reach people that I guess you thought there might be a higher proportion of people never tested or undiagnosed.
So again, I think we're still early in the stages of this, and I think really CDC, the CDC marketing team, which is not on this call, would be best suited to answer that. I think they have a very thoughtful strategy around many different digital platforms that they're using, including dating apps, including social media influencers. They also are engaging community-based organizations that they have funded and those that they haven't funded by ensuring that the digital assets as well as other promotional materials are available. So I think we're still relatively early on with this process, and honestly, as we noted, we had to actually pause a lot of the promotions for even, we've only been live for a number of months, and we've had to pause some of those promotions for part of that time. So I think the answer is, this is something that I think there's a lot of thought is being given to, but I think that we can't really share too much data on this quite yet. But I think a lot more will be coming, in the months to follow.
That's great. Thank you, Jen. And sorry, Travis. Yeah.
I was just going to note, because it's publicly available. I mean, we did report on the outcomes from the demonstration project that used very similar marketing efforts from the Let's Stop HIV Together program that's just being replicated again. And so in that program, we saw that more than 50% of the people who were ordering were people of color. So we expect that we'll be seeing similar outcomes when we start delving into that. But it's a good question about which ads perform better in some areas with different populations. I think the strategies being employed are very similar, though the grinder clearly is making a much bigger splash this time than during the demo project. But that'll just be part of the evaluation plan for the marketing side, to delve deeper and figure out which things were the most effective.
Great. Well, look,
one thing I'd like to say is, from the ISTAMP study, we took some of the lessons learned that we got from Emory, and the CDC Prevention Research Branch basically, looked at the messages, looked at the images, and try to use that, and within the constraints of what CDC is kind of allowed to do, try to incorporate that into their Let's Stop HIV Together campaign and the advertising for the demo project and this project. So we tried to use everything we've learned in the past years.
Well, it certainly looks like it has paid off. We're right on time. So, and yeah, I think it's an amazing program, and as Andrew says, an inspiring one. And we're very grateful that you presented these results first to us today. Congratulations. And yeah, I think this is really realizing a lot of the potential that I think people have hoped that there might be from self-testing in developed countries to increase testing uptake, particularly among people who have not previously tested. So all the best with the program from here, and we'll certainly be watching. I think we had over 100 people at one point today, so there was a lot of interest. And so thank you. It's very late over there, so thanks for staying up, and thanks everyone else for joining us today.